Alrighty. Hello everyone, welcome to the TimePro Sprint Review. We are here for Sprint 320 Review and Retro, and also planning for 321. Today we have from the dev side, myself, JK, Sam. We have our PO, Michael, and two stakeholders, Luke and Adam. Let's jump into it. One. So this was a 1 week sprint. We had the one goal for finishing the Ingram Micro MVP Epic. We've been able to get the MVP down pat. We're still awaiting a couple of details, which I'll jump into later on. But yeah, MVP is delivered. We're now able to work on some of the more extended features. It was myself and Sam primarily working in this sprint, and we've gotten a fair bit done. So the top two here, we've got bugs. The first one was a credit note issue that was encountered by Jimmy. After JK's investigation, it was a super easy fix. It was just that the invoice wasn't being saved before we tried to apply a credit note, and it was doing bad calculations. So we've fixed up the flow there and made it a bit of a better UX with a dialogue to notify the user. The next one there, incorrect sync status displayed on TimePro for the Ingram Micro integration. When a report would sync through and create a bunch of invoices, its state wasn't being handled correctly. So we've resolved that now, so it's displaying correctly on the UI. Next one, Ingram Micro, adding tests. We've got a bunch of automated integration tests there for the invoice generation. So they're working alongside the product sync now, both making sure that we can roll out changes to Ingram Micro somewhat reliably. We'll see. Yeah, next one there, adding documentation. So this documentation was more so aimed at the accountants and the account managers. This is how to set it up, how to use it from their perspective, and also who to bother if they need help on actual Ingram Micro from the sysadmin side. Cool, next one, that was a super old email task there about customize that to customize GST. So this was originally requested by Jean and then bounced back by Stefan, since we don't really want to mix up the terminology there between, our Australian GST versus a French VAT sort of thing. Finally, the complete ones, we've got implementing token caching for Ingram Micro integration. To get it all stood up, originally we were just getting a fresh token every single time we would make a request to their API. Considering they give us like 25 minutes or something before the token times out, we've been able to take advantage of that and cache the token just to limit the API calls. Cool, they're all the complete ones. Finally, we've got one here, which was originally being worked on by Tom, but has been taken over by Sam for the CRM sync. All that had to be done originally was testing, but as Sam found out, the solution drastically hit the performance of that sync, and it was taking 4 times as long or something along those lines. So he has revised the solution, and we've got a PR up which seems to have promising results. Any questions?
Sam.
Did I not say Sam? My bad.
I think you said Piers. Sam.
Piers. Oh.
I think he said he has, but
yeah.
I also did a double take, but yeah.
Piers is showing on the transcript. Shout out to Piers. Sorry, Adam.
Look good with a lot of duns. I'm just because Cookie is doing a chewing the fat on this. Can you do me a favor?
We've lost you there. Could you do me a favor, Adam?
Maybe it's about estimates.
Yeah. Adam, if you're able to put that in chat, I'll have a look at it after the recording. Cool. Moving on otherwise, suggested timesheet usage. So we're up 2% and automated, we're up 3%. This fluctuates week to week. I'd say it's roughly about the same there. We do have a good burn down, which is nice to see. There's been a few jumpy ones recently. We've got a couple more unit tests on the back end, or tests in general, for the Ingram Micro integration, but nothing on the front end. Nothing to call out here with pipeline health, other than it has been successful. Deployments, we've had one deployment in the last week, triggered just before the sprint review, very convenient. Application health, we have had a reduction in the amount of failed requests, but the failed requests we are still getting is just on track as every other week. It's a whole bunch of random endpoints just being probed. State of the epics, we've seen a tiny bit of an advance in the Ingram Micro post MVC changes, but other than that, that's sort of been the primary focus of this week's work. Hopefully we'll get to see a different epic progressing in the next week. R&D, third-party API communications, as per the other weeks. We've had a couple of hiccups here, which I'll get to in the retro, but we're sort of in communication with Ingram Micro themselves now to see what sort of data we might be able to access, since their documentation is limited. AI usage, Sam, Yakshaver, and ChatGPT. Myself, Copilot, Yakshaver, ChatGPT. Yakshaver usage, we've seen a bit of an increase again in the PBIs generated by Yakshaver. Ratio is up about 10-15%, something I can jot down in future emails. Cool. I sort of flew through that. Does anyone have any questions up until now? Yep, awesome. Okay, sprint retro, what went well? Stefan was good with getting the Ingram Micro stuff going, and starting to chat with their side about what their API can actually provide us. We've got Sam back, which is nice. Considering I'm about to be jumping off the project, I think it'll be good that Sam can take over as sort of someone that's on the project full time. Team, lots of PBIs finished. What didn't go so well, we can't seem to access the recommended retail price via the Ingram Micro API. So this is the main issue. We are pulling as much data as we can from Ingram Micro. Welcome back, Adam. We're pulling as much information as we can from the Ingram Micro API, but it's limiting with what we can access. It seems that their recommended retail price doesn't increase if the cost price increases. That has to be manually configured on the Ingram Micro portal. So it means when we're pulling through this data, we can't exactly trust the recommended sell price. As we've seen with some of the historical records coming through from the Ingram Micro invoices, the margins have been shrinking because the cost price increases, but the sell price has been remaining the same. Did that make sense?
Is the regular retail price just cost price plus 20% or something like that? Is there some way? No, it's all black magic, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
it's been a real pain in the neck, to be truthful, because what we're trying to do is the recommended retail price for a product can change over time. What we do when we order a license for the first time is we set the sell price. Now that sell price is set at in the Ingram portal. Now, if both the cost price or the recommended retail price changes, we don't get alerted to that. So they honour our set sell price, We want the recommended retail price. That's what we want, but we haven't seemed to be able to get that data, and we've got Stefan chasing the people from Ingram to see if there's some way we can get that data, because it sort of messes up a lot of the automation we would otherwise do. But this sort of means that we have to be very manual, going backwards and forwards between TimePro and the Ingram portal, which is what the whole feature is meant to try to overcome, is that we would have something that would have give us some automation.
Fair enough.
Cool. Alrighty, next one there. We don't really have a current direction at the moment for the next sprint, so it made the sprint planning a little bit tricky, and also made it tricky to pull some PBIs in when Sam joined mid-sprint. So we're hoping to address that. We can. Yep.
Toby, as soon as that happened, did you call Mike or Yuli or myself?
Well, I've sort of been in communication with Mike, but maybe we could have taken it a little bit further, considering the Ingram Micro MVP is just complete. It hasn't become a huge issue yet. But yeah, it's something I probably should have flagged.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Can I just chime in with a few things? You were going to do a video of this feature. Was that on the last sprint?
So that was on the sprint before. We did do a video, but that will need revision now with some of the changes that we've had to make to accommodate the lacking Ingram Micro API. But saying that, I still don't think it's worthwhile doing yet until we hear back from Ingram Micro themselves, because I think there's going to be more changes required.
Okay, all right. So during this sprint at all, will you make a new version of that?
It won't be this sprint, no. It'll have to be future sprints, because we still haven't heard back from Ingram Micro.
What do we need? What answer do we need from them about what?
We need to know how we can access a recommended retail price for a particular product. All we can reliably pull from their API at the moment, from the invoices, is our cost price. So we could do like a flat 10% margin or something like that, but that's not always going to be applicable. And as Mike has pointed out, from the sales perspective, it's not the recommended approach. We should be looking at the recommended retail price, and then if we need to apply discounts, we're applying it from that, because the recommended retail price will vary, because obviously different products have different margins, whatnot. It's kind of hard to apply that flat rate.
So, Toby, it's worthwhile to. I was just going to add an additional comment. Not all products have the same margin. That's also worthwhile to mention there.
Yep.
Okay. When did we last communicate with them?
I think Stefan sent out an email maybe 2 days ago, which we got a reply saying it was forwarded to their technical team, I believe it was, something along those lines. So I would expect a response maybe tomorrow or if not Monday, something like that.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll chase them up.
Right. Okay. Are you CC'd on it all, Toby?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if you can just reply and say we really want to get can we have a chat? To the right technical person.
Ideally, that's what we're wanting to arrange. So like a meeting would be better than communicating back and forth over email.
Yeah. And let's agree, if after chasing them every day for the next week, if we have no action from them, which we may never get any action from them, then let's just record a video of what we have with cost price and the options we have. We can go cost price plus something, and we can always fix that later. But at least, like as you saw during this sprint review, we're going through the PBIs, but we're not seeing the feature in action. And
sure.
That's why I say at the end of the next sprint review, let's record a new version based on what we have at the moment. Before you record it, Toby, please give me a call so that myself and maybe Cookie or somebody goes through the current video. So give you a bit of feedback for the new one.
I know I've been saying this a little bit, but I am actually set to start client work next week.
Yes.
So I don't think it.
I've heard
Yeah.
it. I've heard it me. Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
hang on a second. So, Toby, you're pretty confident that there's going to be no movement on this Ingram micro work for the next sprint, right? Which is 1 week.
There could potentially be movement, but it's all dependent on when we hear back from them.
Okay. So does that mean the video that you've... Sorry?
If we hear the wrong news or there's no way to access this RRP data, then that may mean that we need to go a different direction with the feature.
Yeah. So the video that you've already recorded, Toby, is that, I guess, current as at what, where we're at now? Or
Yes.
do you still need to record it? Oh, it is current.
Yeah. It's a long video. It's about 10 minutes because it's going through the whole feature, how it works, how we're communicating with them.
Yeah.
But
All right.
yeah,
Well, how about this?
it's current.
How about you walk it through with Cookie? If Cookie thinks it's appropriate to keep that length and all that, then maybe we run with that for the time being, and at least we have something. But I was more expecting it to be a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. But look, I don't mind if Cookie says that's necessary for people to see the feature. That's okay. Or maybe we can just pick out something. By the way, these are the things that go back and forth, and they always deliver things to you here in China. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice. Alrighty. Yeah, okay, that's a fair action point. Could someone jot that down for me, and I'll make sure to get to that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm on it.
The next thing, Toby, is you have always needed this recommended retail price, right?
Yes, but it appeared to be there. There's a field called customer price, but it was misunderstood, I suppose, that is not updated in the Ingram portal, which has also thrown off the accountants, right? Because we weren't fully aware that this margin was shifting around.
Right. Okay. Now I understand what's going on. When did you first realize it's not updating?
Well, we saw that it wasn't updating, and like maybe a week or so ago, but then adjusting it we thought might be more feasible. You might be able to set it back to a default. We thought they might have just been overridden. But yeah, Ingram Micro doesn't offer anything like that. And from our investigation during this week, it has been come to our attention that they expect that you manually update these prices, which is
right. So you could go to their site, get the recommended retail prices, and plonk it into that field, and you're done.
We could, but it won't update, and then it sort of defeats the purpose of having this automated system, right? Because you're not going to be able to rely on the prices. You'd have to go back through and check all of that through the Ingram Micro portal every single time an invoice flows through.
Right. But for the use of at the moment, where there's not that many prices or products that we're invoicing, it could be a task that you have on your system so that we can just say, well, this is done. And, there's a feature request from Ingram Micro to give us another field called RRP, but this is how you do it at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In its current state, and if the values were correct, it's up to testing. It's just making sure that all of it's valid. But it's just we want to make sure that this is a feature that's going to work and actually be useful. Yeah.
JK, do you remember how many months ago you started this Ingram Micro? It was ages ago, wasn't it? Was it
yeah,
4
but I
months,
was
5 months, 6 months?
I think it started in November, October, but it was worked on very sporadically. Like we did complete most of it in 1 month.
Yeah. Just so, I mentioned that, Toby, just so you have an idea of the feeling. You've been on this thing to automate the prices for more than 4 months. It's probably 6 months, and right at the death, we realized that the actual field we need, which is important, is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling at the moment, and
no, how you pitch it there, that's absolutely terrible. But also in the way that JK said, like sporadically, like that's kind of an it's like we said, the first month we're able to smash out a bunch of it. I went on to client work, a bunch of other people went on to client work. Context was sort of lost there. It's only been when I've been jumping back on the project, or if JK's been able to action some things, it's kind of been hard to work on in the meantime. So in truth, probably the actual work, I would say a month of solid work, or maybe a month and a half of solid work.
Right. Okay. But it seems to have been in every sprint review for the last 6 months to me. Like maybe, there's other bugs being fixed, but it didn't go on hiatus as far as I understood. All right. Now, the other little thing, we're doing chewing the fat on, under promising, over delivering. Can you go up to the top where you have your items of the backlog and see that you've got the word done? Can you add the little green tick and a space next to each one? And Cookie, we put it in the beginning, not the end.
Oh, you want it? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, that's how we always do it. And that was the space. Beautiful. This is the screenshot you can use, Cookie, for the chewing the fat. This is kind of what I meant when I asked Jordan, because it looks a lot better and clearer when it's like this.
Cool.
Toby, just to nitpick, man, you got to put a space between the emoji and the word done, like you did on the first row.
I did. I just did two. Oh, no, I didn't. You're so right.
No.
Okay. Sorry, mate. Setting off the OCD there.
Super valuable, feedback there, I know. But if we're putting it in a screenshot, we better have it consistent.
Oh, yeah. No, so fair.
Crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
Cool.
so hang on. Can you just make sure I'm CC'd on this if I need a screenshot of that thing?
I absolutely
Please?
can. Luke.
Thank you.
No dramas. Righty, I'll update who was the attendees. Awesome. Okay, jumping over to planning.
One more thing.
Sure.
I'm going to send you an email, which is Josh's one from the Tina CMS team. At the bottom of the Yak Shaver one, it has a link to how it's auto-generated. I don't know if your Yak Shaver piece in this email is auto-generated, but if it is, hopefully using the same script, just put the same thing and just have a look through his email just to compare it as per the template and as per,
Yeah, okay. I can have a look. Just a quick side note on that. We have spoken about this before. So since we're on Azure DevOps rather than GitHub, we couldn't use the same script. But JK was able to automate it. We've got a pipeline that runs before sprint review, which produces a little markdown table with all the details that were shown there, which is what we use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The prototype
so
that I have.
And just say can't use GitHub script as Azure DevOps or whatever. Using a pipeline instead or something. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no dramas.
All right,
cool. Alrighty, sprint planning. So this will be a 1 week sprint. It's pretty much just going to be Sam on the project. And we are sort of starting to, first off, finishing that PR that we spoke about earlier with the CRM. And then it's starting to address a little bit of tech debt there while we figure out the direction of the product. If we're able to start switching out some of those legacy components and bringing them in and making it all consistent with the rest of the application, which uses Angular material. That's a first step for shifting over to the latest version of Angular.
Why are we switching to Angular material instead of using Kendo?
Because there's been that many comments about which ones we're using, but the Kendo that we're using is very old version. ages ago, I'm not sure who it was, started that Angular material trend. So the application was shifting in that direction anyway, which makes it super easy to update as a benefit there.
Toby, just assume that you're on the latest Kendo and the latest material. Make the decision that way. I don't know the reason it's been switched. As far as I knew, this wasn't going to be looked at until we were upgraded from Angular 10 to Angular 19. It's obviously part of
this was a long time ago, and I may be mistaken, but I seem to recall something along the lines of the version of Kendo that we have a license for is not compatible with the latest version of Angular. And so it was either we buy a new license, which gave us the Kendo version that was compatible, or we switched away.
Yeah. So assume that we have the latest version of Kendo, that we buy it. I want to know, are we choosing the right thing? Like Toby's saying, somebody else made some decision. It seems to veered that way. I don't know the reasons. I want to know the reason. Like, which one's got a better combo? What was the reason this was chosen?
I guess there's a couple,
unless there's a good reason.
There's a couple of different aspects to that. Like we can chat to a designer about what they want, but I know in between, if we're already going through this Angular upgrade, there's a couple of breaking changes between where we are and where we want to be. I think with Angular material, it's a pretty smooth upgrade process, at least from my experience with a client which we did this for, where I'm under the impression from Chris and JK that these Kendo components, there's like big changes there as well. So it's just adding another complexity to the migration.
Okay. Yeah, all right. But I still want to know what's. I'm not really that interested in the migration part. It is a factor, but the end user experience is the number one thing, and we don't need a designer for that. We just need a dev. Look at the two combo boxes; they're good. Look at the light box. Look at the tooltips. It should be the best user experience.
Okay. We'll add first task there will be consulting with a designer about which library to move forward with.
No, do not deal with the designer. A developer will deal with this.
It wouldn't the designer be appropriate?
No. So Toby, the problem with that approach is the designer might tell you that material is way better looking and we should go with material. And then you find out that material doesn't offer you some kind of control that TimePro relies on, right? And only Kendo provides that control or something. So you need to figure out what the technical requirements and limitations are before you then start getting the designers to pick and choose.
I see what you mean. Yep. No, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, just use the demo for the grid and the combo, and probably be able to work out which one you like.
Yeah.
It also depends on how friendly it is for the dev to use it. There is, of course, we want the designers to be able to put lipstick on it, but we shouldn't be using them to make judgment calls on which developer library to use.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get what you mean now. That makes sense.
Just to give Tiny a bit of context, there was one table where we tried to update it to be closer to some of the Kendo tables, and Kendo table is a bit more difficult to replicate all of the features that we have than Google Material, where I don't believe there's any other issues with Google Material in terms of control. It's just the table. So if we can figure out how to basically match the functionality, I think Google Material is good.
Okay.
But Adam, where does that sit in, well, Michael and Adam, because Michael's the product owner, but where does that sit in your priority list? Like, do you want to start doing some R&D into these UI libraries as the sort of next cab off the rank, or is there something more important?
Well, I think the biggest one we really want is the GitHub integration, to be having people enter timesheets automatically. So the GitHub one strikes me as more important. But there is a chance that Toby says, I don't think we want to work on that until we're on the latest version of Angular because of whatever reason. I don't know if there is a good reason. But maybe it's fine to stay on Angular 10 as well. Then maybe there's no issue.
Yeah.
We can do
My reasons for choosing the tech debt stuff was that this Ingram feature, even though we're delivering a version of it, it's not in my view, a satisfactory version. And because we've got some things that are yet to be determined, meaning the Stefan investigation, that may come back with some information that might improve the feature. So I didn't want to bring in any big epics yet until that was my thinking.
That's fair. I think it's probably a good choice to tackle this because it sounds like you're going to have to answer the UI library question before you can start the Angular upgrade anyway, right? So if you've got a little bit of spare time now while you're waiting on Ingram Micro, it's probably a good call.
Yeah, and just to add, we also had a security audit of various SSW products, and from TimePro, as far as I know, this is the upgrade of Angular is the only security issue that was highlighted.
Nice.
Okay, all right, let's move on.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, that I'll add the task in there to actually go through and assess the two libraries there, and that will be first step before moving on to those.
Yes, and when you're assessing it, not on Angular 10, on Angular 19, and you're also missing the bit about Ingram Micro contacting them and getting a review of the video done so we can record a new one. Because I'm assuming that you will get no luck with Ingram Micro, and we're going to have to just base it on people manually updating that customer price field.
Okay, I'll add those in before I send it off, but I won't hold anyone else up longer. If there's no other questions or comments. No. Okay. Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. As usual, I'll upload it to the TimePro YouTube channel where you can see the rest of our brilliant reviews. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Good job, Times. Good job,
See you
team.
next time.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Good job, Toby. Was that hard?